Hello, everybody. Long time no see. This is Charis Farfalla. Used to be Brenda Renee. Legally changed my name to a much better vibrational frequency. I decided I would come and do this video today based on some of the energy healings, clearings that I've done this week. It's been a pretty intense week. I'm trying to keep my notes here to remind me what I want to talk about so I don't get off on a tangent. But anyway, in the last several years, I've been doing a lot of clearing work, and you can call it shamanic clearing, you call it chakra realignment, you can call it energy healing, spiritual healing. But in a nutshell, what I do is I work on all the energy bodies, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, etheric bodies. I do those overall, and then I go in and do work on the DNA. I work and do upgrades, clean out mutations, clean out files, corrupted files. I also go in and look at the physical body. Now, I started doing the clearings initially, I'd go into the physical body because I was looking for spiritual problems like psychic hooks, psychic spears. I've got this thing called psychic snakes that I look for. I look for the spiritual problems, but I've noticed, and this is what the video is about, I've noticed that I find physical abnormalities, issues. Sometimes the client knows about it already, and I'll say something, and then they'll say, "Yeah, it's crazy you see that, da 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 da." And I'll give you some examples of that. But also, I see things that are coming up. So let me explain something. We have the energy bodies, and they're stacked on top of each other. It looks like an onion, layers of an onion. And all problems begin on the spiritual level, or you can say the etheric level. This is not, unless you're like me and you can see auras and things, you can't see the etheric level. You can see and touch the physical body. So when you are going to get sick, or you have the potential to get sick, it starts on the etheric level. And if you don't fix it, it ends up coming its way down to the physical body. By the time it gets to the physical body, it's already been in your auric field for quite some time. So I didn't, just like getting into this work to begin with, I never had a plan to do any of this. God has just put me on this path and brought people to me that need help. And he's teaching me as I go. People say, "Well, who did you study with? Where did you go to learn these things?" I went to the class of life. I went to the school of life. God has literally taught me in each session I do, and I've done hundreds by now. And each session, each clearing is it's a new study for me, because every client is unique and everybody has different things. I see different things every time I do a clearing, and then I have to go into discussion with the Holy Trinity and say, okay, what is this that I'm seeing? And I just wanted to share a couple of little things that happened this week. I thought were kind of neat. I had a guy come to me that he wasn't your typical clearing. A lot of the clearings are people who are really, really in bad shape. Like they've got possessions, they've got entity attachments, they've been labeled schizophrenic, all kinds of crazy things. And what it is it's entities. That's a hardcore session. And that's what a lot of people are. But then I get these people that are very spiritually evolved, and they just know, I need to clean myself up. Can you help me? So I had this man call me, and he said that he works with psychics, and he told the psychics told him, you need to see a shaman. So he got on the internet, on Google, and looked up, and he gave this woman all of these listings, and she picked me. She said, she's the one you need to work with. You can trust her. So he called me. We set up a session. I think we did it yesterday. The days are all running together at this point. So when we were working, he wasn't, so he's a very high vibrational person. Definitely a star being, star seed. So he was talking to me, and he said he listed like 24 things that he wanted to get done. I said, this is your first clearing. I usually only do one clearing a person. And I said, you're welcome to come back as much as you want, but there's no possible way I can get 24 things done on top of what my normal session looks like. Because when I do a session, I have it broke down into like categories, and I follow that category list so I can stay on track and I get everything done thoroughly. Well, he was adding all these other things. So I said, okay, we may have to do more than one session if that's what you want. But anyway, when we were doing this, he was like, I want to get all this stuff cleared up. Well, it was really interesting because when I went into his DNA, I was looking at it, and all of a sudden I saw this, a lot of these things that I see are hard to put into words. They're really hard to put into words. So the best way I was able to explain it to him, I said, do you know what a kaleidoscope is? And many of you might be too young to know what a kaleidoscope is. It's like this tube that you put to your eye and you twist it, and it makes all these beautiful geometric pictures at the end of the tube. And now I want to go buy one if they still sell them after seeing this week. But I started really thinking about kaleidoscopes, and I was like, these things have been teaching us about sacred geometry, the fractal universe, for a long time, before anybody ever came up with those terms. And I told him, I said, and then another idea I said, there's these toys that you can put paint in, and it spins the paint out onto the page. And when I was looking at his DNA, I was seeing all these beautiful colors, just a plethora of colors. And I was like, wow, this is really amazing. It's like it wasn't sacred geometry that I recognized, because a lot of times when I'm in these sessions, I'll see the flower of life at the center of people's energy bodies. But with this, it was when I was in his DNA. And he said, well, where is this located? Is it in my heart chakra? I said, no, this is not a region of the body. This is microscopic level of your DNA. And I took that to mean, because he's such a high vibe, he's not a 3D typical person. He's way beyond that. And I thought to myself, this is showing me what the DNA looks like when you're of a higher dimension, of a higher frequency. It was really cool. Then I had another guy, and this is really who the video is for and about. He came to me, and I don't know, I wrote the name of this down. He came to me after he had taken an herb. And what he was doing was he was trying to move up the ladder, ascension-wise, evolution-wise, quickly, like so many young people do. He's like 20, 21, something like that. Oh, the herb is called Harataki. And he called me and he said, I took this herb and it blew out my third eye chakra. He said, I felt it blow up. So I questioned him about the herb, and he said he had taken it for about 6 months. First 3 months, he said he felt great. And then later into it, he felt this explosion. Then he ended up having to go into a mental institution. They told him he was schizophrenic because he was hearing voices and seeing things and all of that. And I told him, I said, as I was working on him, I was looking at everything. When I do a clearing, I always open the Akashic Soul Records before I get started. So I have access to everything right there. And when I was clearing him, I told him, I said, I see, because, okay, see, there's so many thoughts going in my mind. I'm trying to give them to you in a logical order. When I do a clearing, I go into ancestral curses. When you go into ancestral curses, it pulls up. I work on multiple timelines and dimensions during a clearing. And when I go into the generational curses, a lot of times it'll show me an alternate timeline the person's living on. Okay, got that straight. So I was seeing other stories that are going on. I don't believe in past lives. I use that word because people understand it. But there are no past or future lives. We're on multiple dimensions and timelines at once. So you can be in 14th century Italy, and you can be in the United States, and right this minute in 2023, you can be 14th century, 2023, 3018, somewhere else. So we're looking at all this stuff, and you can pull from these different timelines, like knowledge you may have, talents, gifts you have. I've said for a long time, I've got an alternate timeline that I am a master pianist. And I feel that in my heart that I want to know how to play piano in this lifetime. But I hadn't been disciplined enough to stick to it and learn it. Okay, so when I was looking at all these timelines of his, I could see he has a habit of wanting to take the easy path, the shortcut. And I've noticed a lot of these young people, these younger generations, they've been raised on Harry Potter and, DMT and ayahuasca and all these things that promise you this spiritual awakening, or the promise to teach you all these talents. But in olden times or in other timelines, they were much more precautious. That's why you had apprentices and you had the student and the teacher. Because if you don't do these things in a careful manner, you end up having what happened to him. So as I was working on him, I saw, this chakra and this chakra, crown chakra, they literally look like, I told him, I said, it looks like somebody put a stick of dynamite in there and blew it up. So I'm sitting here trying to figure out a solution. And I told, and the Bible came to me. I can't quote these scriptures perfectly, but I get the gist of them. There is, I don't know where it's at. I'm not one of those people that can tell you John 3:18 or whatever. I can't do that. But there is a scripture, and I believe it may be in Matthew. I think it's New Testament. It might be other places too. But it talks about you must build a solid foundation. If you build your house on sand, it's going to get washed away. It's going to be destroyed. And so what I was telling him was, you jumped right to here. This is the 6th chakra. You forgot about 1 through 5. You have, and when I was looking at his body, the first 3 chakras, the root, the sacral, and the solar plexus, they weren't even really active. Like, I felt nothing there. I saw nothing there. It went right up here. So he didn't have a foundation built to go here. This was creepy. When I was looking at his third eye, an eyeball was looking back at me, and it wasn't his. So then I saw, I've got a really, really close friend that's a chiropractor and acupuncturist, and he studied Oriental medicine. And he's always told me, do not mess with the third eye chakra because it's a portal to bad things. And I didn't know what he was talking about. Well, today I do. When that eyeball was looking at me and blinking at me, I saw there were 2 paths here, 2 paths. My client took the easy path, the wrong path. and he opened himself up. And when he opened himself up, all this stuff rushed in. I tell people, when you're messing around with stuff, substances, drugs, alcohol, and that includes marijuana, anything that it can be prescription drugs, anything that puts you out of your firm rootedness in your body, that does something mentally or stimulant wise, or don't even want to use stimulant because then there's somebody's going to say, well, alcohol is not a stimulant, it's a depressant. Whatever puts you in a hazy, foggy, funky place mentally is like walking to your front door, opening it up and saying, anybody that wants to come in, come in. And that's what he did. And now he's plagued with spirits and all this stuff that he has no control over. So my recommendation to him is to start working on grounding himself, on clearing himself, on shielding himself. Get those first 3 chakras balanced and lined up before you go off on all these tangents. And I told him, and then he texted me this question, how do you get to other dimensions? So it's all about these trips, quick trips. And I told him, right now, we need to focus on your relationship with God, with Christ. Let's get you under that seal of protection. Start studying the Bible, pray, get baptized. And then as after we've done this clearing, you're going to be clean. Then, because I was given permission to activate DNA with him today, because he is a person from a higher dimension, and he is somebody, he's a starseed. They both were. This guy, he's trying to reclaim the knowledge he's lost, and he's been under severe spiritual attack because they don't want you to remember all this stuff. They don't. So I told him, work on your relationship with divine, and then this DNA is going to start coming on, and you're going to start feeling inspired to change things going on in your life. I worked with one girl. I did a clearing on her back in 2020, and we've become really good friends. And the first time we talked, it was June of 2020, probably around her birthday, because she's a Gemini. But she didn't want to talk about God. She didn't want to talk about anything like that. Okay. And she was smoking weed every day, and she was just kind of all over the place. Well, we did that first clearing, and I think through the years, we've probably done 1 or 2 more because she'll get concerned that something's attached to her. Well, she was a high vibrational being. She was like a feline being, a starseed being. And I saw that in the very beginning. And over this time that has passed, she's become a complete vegan. She exercises all the time. She detoxes. She's very careful with her thoughts, what she feeds her mind. She's careful what she feeds her body. In a lot of ways, she's become my mentor because she's an extremely disciplined person. And anybody that can be really, really disciplined in habits impresses me. And so we did a Akashic record reading for her birthday the other day. And when I read her, she requires me to go to 5D and higher to give her answers. She doesn't ask typical mundane earthly questions. And I told her, I said, she always wants to know, well, if I graduated, what school am I in? And I told her, I said, you're definitely on the path to ascension. That's what's going to happen for you. And all these things you're doing they're raising your frequency. And she's watching people fall out of her life, like people that have been lifelong friends are suddenly having an issue with her. And it's funny because, she's probably the kindest person I've ever met in my life. And these people keep coming up to her, but they're falling away. So anyway, I was telling this client that's trying to rush the process, and I said, just think about a 220 wire and you try to plug it into a 110 outlet, you're going to fry the system. And when you try to speed up these things, you short circuit your electricity. Your body's an electrical unit. And if you put too much in there, it fries it. And that's what he did. This is the problem when we, as Americans, start working with these foreign cultural practices, because those people probably know how to do these things in moderation and when to do them and all that. We don't know. We just take the stuff. You know, all these people brag about going and taking this ayahuasca. You hear about the experience, but you don't hear 6 months down the road what's happening to these people. I get the calls. Oh my gosh, I've done this, I've done that. I woke my Kundalini up. I listened to binaural beats. I fell asleep to this meditational music. And now I'm going crazy. I'm hearing voices. I'm seeing spirits, blah, 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 on and on and on. They're opening doors to portals they should not be doing. Then they come to me to clean it up. And so anyway, this poor guy, he said after a few months of taking this stuff, somebody on YouTube told him to take, he lost all his energy. He's just like a slug now. He said, I can't work out. I don't have any energy. I've been in mental institutions a few times now. They told me I was schizophrenic. Now they have me on medication for that. You know, he said, I can't pray. He said, before all this happened, I was very close to God. I prayed all the time. I can't pray anymore. So these spiritual intrusions have blocked him. And so, as I was looking at his system, you know, I told him this is not going to be, you're not going to hang up the phone and be reclaimed and everything's just like it used to be. It's going to take time. It's like somebody going for chemotherapy. It's going to take time to come back from that and heal. It's a gradual thing. Well, we've already said he doesn't like gradual. He wants it immediate. But I told him, I said, you're going to have to build a strong foundation to get the other chakras caught up. I did some sealing and healing work and went into the DNA and worked on all this stuff that he's messed up. But it's just the price you pay when you're dealing with matters of the spirit realm. I'm going to say it that way, because when you say spiritual, you kind of think of like a religion. The spirit realm has different rules than we have. And because most of us are only operating with our five senses, our seeing, our hearing, our touch, feel, all that sound, a lot of this stuff, it gets past us because we don't even, it's like being tied up in a bed sheet, swinging, you feel somebody attacking you on the outside and you're hitting and punching, you don't even know what you're doing, who you're hitting or what you're doing. And that's kind of how this thing goes. So anyway, getting back to the title of this video, I am discovering as I do more and more and more and more clearings that God is showing me physical things that are going on. Another client this week, I was telling her her lower back, where your butt is, like underneath the butt cheeks, the bone. I'm going to sneeze. I hope I don't sneeze. Feels like it's coming on. If it does, excuse me. Anyway, I told her, I said, when I look at that area, it's like all these black worm things. And it really wasn't worms. It was like energy. But they were like just flashing. And when I see something flashing in the body, it's like it's an inflammation. And I said, you might want to get a chiropractic adjustment, because I feel like there's a misalignment in the spine that's causing pressure on nerve endings, and it's causing inflammation. And then she said, that's so weird you see that. I have bad sciatica. And I said, okay. And then, you know, I was talking to another person, And I said, I had a person call me and she said, I need you to look at my husband's heart. What in the world is going on? And when I tuned into it, again with the inflammation, and I told her, I said, it feels like parasites, the thought was dog heartworms. I told her this is parasites, so you may, this is all spiritual healing. So it's using I get visions, I hear voices, I like hear voices, not like just random voices, but when I ask a question, they tell me immediately. But I told her, I said, you need to get on like a dewormer, like and I said, I'm not talking about the typical herbal stuff you take, for a cleanse or a detox. I said, you need to get like, they've got all these things like ivermectin, and there was another one I was telling her yesterday, some kind of dog dewormer, but it's going to require like an animal dewormer, detoxify or whatever. So, but I just told her, that's my suggestion. I'm not a doctor. I cannot diagnose or recommend, prescribe things, but I can give my opinion. And as I said, God shows me these things. I'm not conjuring up spirits, spirit guides, animal guides. I go straight to the source. And, it says in the Bible that God will shower out his gifts of healing on the people, and, prophetic gifts, and, discernment and different things like that. I'm very careful about who I work with doing these sessions, because I don't want to add more to a person than they came to me with. So all the time when I'm in there in the physical body part of the session, I will see things, and I'll tell people, hey, I see some lumps maybe in your lymph system. It looks like it's clogged, and anytime I see something up here, my first concern is the breast having, developing cancer there. So if I see congestion, I'll tell them, you need to get a lymphatic massage. You need to get that draining so it doesn't, clog up there. I often see things in women's uterus, in their female organs, and I'll say, okay, I see such and such here. It looks like a knot or something, some kind of growth. And, the person will say, oh yeah, I have endometriosis, or I have fibroids, or whatever. But I can see it. And it's not me, it's not Charis that can see it. It's a divine seeing that comes to me. And as I said before, this is not something that I signed up for. My background's in law and in horticulture. I studied psychic gifts, but I studied them for myself. Somebody asked me the other day, well, why did you get into this? And I said, everything I've learned has been to help myself. And then it ended up, because I've always been somebody that wants to help others, and others have always naturally come to me for guidance, it has carried over to work, a career, and helping other people where I can. So anyway, I think that's all I have to say right now. I'm sorry this wasn't better organized, but I was about to go out and I said, no, let's get this video done before you leave. And there may be some more videos that I do here soon, because I have a lot on my mind, things that have come through in my work that I like to share with people. But anyway, that story about the guy taking that herb, that was very concerning. And I get those kind of calls all the time. And when people do that kind of thing, it can mess them up pretty bad. And that's what happened with this guy. And now we've just got to get him lined back up. I also advised him to go get some acupuncture because that helps align the energy, the energetic field of the body. So I did my work. Now he has to do his work. But just a note to the wise. If it's important to you to grow spiritually and evolve, take necessary precautions, and don't just listen to anybody that's on these videos, that's on the internet, whatever, because you don't know what spirit you're working with behind these people. Always ask, say a prayer to God to give you, say a prayer to the Holy Spirit to give you the truth and give you discernment to recognize the truth. Anyone you work with, make sure you can trust them, because whoever you work with in a healing capacity, you're going to take on whatever they're carrying around. So if it's somebody that's not healed, if it's somebody that's got attachments, guess what? You're going to get a lot of that stuff on you in your energy field. Anyway, have a blessed weekend, fabulous rest of June, and you can find me. You can email me at themysticalempress@gmail.com, and or you can write a message in here on the videos. But I'm around. Nice to see you here. Thank you for spending your time with me, and I hope you got something you could use, something valuable out of this conversation. Thank you, and blessings to you. Bye-bye.